The Philistines came to Israel from the islands of the Mediterranean, and the Arameans from Kir, that is the Syrians, the kingdom immediately to the northeast, from Kir. God worked in all these nations, and what he's really saying is like Romans 2, which I was reading in my quiet time this morning. If we're the people of God and we claim to be enlightened, what makes us think that if we live double lives, we're going to get away with it? God holds us accountable. Again, going back to chapter 3, you alone have I called from all the nations of the earth. Well, with privilege comes responsibility. And then last, in chapter 9, verse 13, and it ends in a very positive way. That's one great thing. All these prophets, they have the negative stuff, but they got some really positive things too, that show us a happy future and a loving God. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the one who plows, and the planter by the one treading grapes. New wine will drip from the mountains and flow from all the hills, and I will bring my people Israel back from exile. And so the book ends with a prophecy of what will happen in 200 years. About 200 years after Israel's destroyed, they'll be brought back by the Persians and resettled in their land. And look at this beautiful image. The reaper overtaken by the plower. In other words, the harvest will be so big that the people will still be bringing it in when it's time to plant the seed the next year. The planters are coming and they want to plow up the land, but the people they can't harvest the previous crop. Well, that's the abundance that God promises to our lives if we'll put him first. Think of Malachi 3, think of John 10, so many passages. Amos was courageous, eloquent, a man with a vision for all nations, and as you read earlier in the book, and actually throughout, he's not just delivering a message for Israel or for southern Judah, but for many nations. A bit different to Hosea, who we looked at last time. Hosea challenged the priests and the people. Amos challenges the national leaders. He challenges other nations. He challenges Israel for their idolatry and their callousness to their fellow man. And the prophet does not shrink back. The Lord strikes them in the hope that they will return to him. Sadly, we know that most did not. What do we need to learn from this book of Amos? I want to emphasize a couple of things that emerge about God himself. And of course, there's much more material in the notes that accompany, far more than we can go through in this short lesson. I'm just going to focus on two. When we ignore God's warnings, he punishes us. And yet, the judgment is followed by blessing. That is to say, it's a serious thing when we ignore the law of God. But it's not the end. If judgment does its work, a happy day is on the way. And secondly, God works among the nations. He cares for all of them. We think we are it. He's only working among our people, or our church, our movement, our kind, our family. But the world is so much bigger than that, and God is working everywhere. In him we live, move, and have our being. And the grace of God is broader than we realize. The work of God is broader than we may want it to be. And this just causes us to be humble. So, two things that I see about God. When we ignore his word, he punishes us, yet that's followed by blessing. God works among all nations. He cares for all people.